I use a lot of fragrances throughout the course of a month, but my current favorite fragrances are the ones I'm enjoying a bit more than the rest. Hi, hope you're all well, welcome. Before I begin, make sure you hit that subscribe and please drop a like on this video, thank you. So I use a lot of fragrances throughout the course of a month, usually at least 2 a day and sometimes more. At least 1 in the morning and 1 later in the day. Add 1 extra on workout day simply because I always spray something on after the post-workout shower. I rarely plan what I'll be wearing and often go by a combination of mood and occasion. So I use a lot of different kinds of fragrances throughout the year, but lately I've been moving away from more sort of a warmer and heavier scents to fragrances that are a bit lighter. I've also reached more for alternatives to some of my absolute favorites just to change things up, and I'm going to share some of them in this video. So first up is a fantastic freshly that has such a weird release date after the summer of 2024. I bought it back in October last year and I've used it a bit, but I've been waiting for warmer days to use it a lot more. And the last times I've reached for it, it smells even better and it actually developed a bit. So Versace Eros Energy, when I initially reviewed it, was all about intense citrusy freshness with a bit of fresh sweetness to it. This is freshness on top of soft musk with a bit of soft woodiness to it. Back then I felt it had a bit of Mont Blanc Explorer vibes to it, but that part to me back then was quite soft. Now that it has developed a bit, I actually feel that part is a bit more intense. And one way to sort of describe Versace Eros Energy is to take a bit of Mont Blanc sort of woody and fresh DNA, but make it a lot less intense and put it in an intensely citrusy blend with a focus on smooth lemon and lime. If I would review this now, I would probably bump up the rating at least a little bit. Absolutely gorgeous freshy, and I'm looking forward to using it even more from now. So I pretty much always rotate through my YSL as part of my fragrances for everyday use. I definitely think that line is among some of the best for everyday use, but every now and then I switch it up with the L'homme and La Nuit de l'homme and myself lines, and have been enjoying the OG L'homme quite a bit lately. I think this is a modern classic that's both masculine and mass appealing. The YSL L'homme is basically bright and citrusy fresh with a smooth woodiness and vetiver and a touch of vanilla. So smoothly fresh and woody with a bit of sweetness to it that brings a bit of nuance to it. L'homme is not a strong scent, but it does get noticed when someone's a bit closer to you, and it's definitely a mass appealing scent that's great for everyday use. And I've given my YSL a bit of a break lately and enjoyed it instead. So I bought the Givenchy Gentleman Society Amber back in March, and quite soon after that I bought this one. During the first couple of wearings I actually felt it was a bit flat and weak, but I think it needed a bit of air to develop, and now I think it smells absolutely fantastic. The opening, an absolutely wicked dose of minty and aromatic freshness. Mint and sage is such a wicked combo, and I would love to see more fragrances with that duo. The more it dries down, the more you start getting that sort of a core society DNA with the vetiver, the narcissus and the vanilla. The twist of this flanker though is coffee, and this is definitely not a warm cup of coffee. This is very smooth and creamy coffee and more like a cold sweet latte rather than an espresso. Society Extreme is basically a rich kind of creamy woodiness with vanilla. A sexy dose of mint and sage and coffee, giving the whole thing a bit of a unique twist. I'm getting above average projection for about an hour or two, but the longevity is better. This is such a fantastic release and it has quickly become one of my absolute favorites. So next up, one of the best uses of plum in a melt fragrance. This opens up in a bright, spicy and aromatic fresh way with lavender and geranium. The opening is a gorgeous one and it's an extremely likable scent, and I absolutely love that no combo in fragrances. The drawdown is woody with a bit of soft earthiness and a fantastic dose of fruity sweetness from plum. That plum together with the truffle accord is what takes this in a somewhat unique direction. Bad Boy Cobalt is a wicked compliment getter, and I think it's a great choice as an easy to wear everyday kind of fragrance. Every single time I talk about it, I mention its performance. I know some get beast mode performance out of it, but on my skin it's not a strong scent. The projection is initially great, but it really comes down after about an hour or two, which is the reason why I recommend spraying more or topping it up. Topping it up is actually even better than spraying more, simply because of how fantastic the combo of the opening and the dry down is. So I'm a big fan of the L'homme line with its uniqueness, and it's not that long ago since I bought the Parfum, and it's the one in the line that I've used the most lately. This to me retains that sort of a signature almond focused DNA of the line, but it's more fruity sweet and boozy than the original. To my nose, it takes that amaretto accord in a more fruity and boozy direction that almost rivals the Extreme, but in a different way. It's not as fruity and sweet as the Extreme, and instead focuses on quite a smooth dose of leather together with a bit of musk. This line is still one of the most unique on the designer side, and the Parfum is another solid release that I've enjoyed lately. So next up is a very recent purchase that has quickly become one of my favorites. So I went for a workout after I wrapped up my first impressions of it, and I kept getting these whiffs of this gorgeous scent, and I put my nose to my arm and I absolutely loved it. And after wearing it for pretty much 2 full days in a row, I actually feel this leans more towards a sort of a modified version of the OG Invictus Victory rather than something that leans towards Invictus Victory Elixir. Invictus Victory Absolu basically opens up with a bit of spicy freshness, so then in comes a fantastic dose of ambery warmth together with a bit of aromatic freshness. The dry down though is my absolute favorite part of it, when the whole thing basically changes into a mix of smooth sandalwood, ambery warmth and sweetness with an aromatic touch. Invictus Victory Absolu is a compliment getting kind of scent that has quickly become one of my favorites. So I've given my bottles of the Scent Magnetic and the Scent Elixir a bit of a break lately and instead enjoyed this a bit more. I think that the scent line is quite underrated, and the whole line basically focuses around the fruitiness of the maninka fruit, which I believe is something that's exclusive to Boss. The Scent Absolute takes the fruitiness of the maninka in an intensely spicy, fresh and aromatic blend with a lighter kind of woodiness to it. Absolute is among those in the line with an amped up dose of the maninka fruit, and I love how it's combined with an intense dose of spicy freshness on top of a woody and slightly earthy base. So simple, but simple done in a fantastic way thanks to the intensity of the few things in it. Projection on my skin is a bit above average for at least a couple of hours, and the longevity is quite good. I think it works well for both casual and formal occasions, and it's as good for date nights as it is for work and school. Moving on to the Gold Uomo, which is a fragrance that has grown on me a lot since I bought it. The Gold Uomo opens up with a smooth mix of spices and vanilla. The mix is absolutely gorgeous, and to me it's like a mix of something fresh, something slightly ambery warm with vanilla. The drawdown is mostly about creamy vanilla that's ambery and a bit woody. This to me feels like they took the vanilla from Born in Roma Intense but removed the lavender and instead replaced it with a spicy kick and made the whole thing amber instead. I don't think the two are the same, but I definitely feel they created the gold based on something from Born in Roma Intense. Performance is above average, but it's not strong, and I usually bring an atomizer with me to top it up every now and then. I do it for the performance, but also for the wicked opening and mids. To me, it's a very casual, happy and sexy scent that always makes me smile whenever I spray it on. So when I reach for one of my Jimmy Choo fragrances, it's usually Man Aqua. What an absolute banger of a compliment getter that one is. But sometimes I reach for the Intense instead, and I've definitely been enjoying this a bit more than Aqua lately. The Intense is definitely a bit richer with a bit more depth to it, but I do not feel this is a heavy scent, and I basically use it as an everyday kind of fragrance that works on any occasion. To my nose, it opens up with a spicy kick and a dose of lavender, and then it dries out to a mix of fruitiness and lavender that's amber and sweet. The duo that I think makes it so good is the combination of lavender and honeydew melon. The drawdown is when the whole thing changes into a more woody and slightly smoky scent, which could almost be described as Guerlain Blue from Versace meets Invictus from Rabanne with a fruity twist to it. This is so inoffensive and likable, but I wish it had better performance. This is one I always bring an atomizer to top it up. Gorgeous scent, but it's definitely not strong, but it was also very cheap. So the original Le Male is part of my rotation pretty much throughout the year. Sometimes I just reach for it once a month, sometimes more, but I always reach for it once in a while. Parfums de Darley is when I want that kind of scent but with a twist. And it could almost be described as a more elegant and classy version of Le Male, whereas the OG Le Male has more of a sexy vibe to it. It opens up with a cooling, minty and smooth citrusy freshness. There's a fantastic dose of lavender to it as well, and there are Le Male vibes in the opening for sure. The drawdown is smoothly woody with a bit of ambery warmth around it and soft vanilla in the background. The drawdown is where I feel it goes in a different direction, since Le Male is dominated by vanilla and lavender, and this is more lavender and woods. If you love Le Male but always wanted a less sweet and less vanilla focused version of it, then Darley is the one. I'll get Le Male back into the rotation soon, but been enjoying Darley lately. So I fell in love with the uniqueness of Kenzo Homme when I bought my first bottle, and I've now bought every single Homme that's been released since, and they are all part of my rotation, but I do reach for them more spring and summertime. And the EDT Intense is one of my absolute favorites in the line, and the EDT Intense is basically a mix of what I think is a unique kind of marine freshness and a fantastic fruity sweetness courtesy of Calypso. I definitely gotta find and buy more fragrances with Calypso because I do like the scent, and the combo here with fruity sweetness and marine freshness is wicked. Smooth marine freshness, fruity watermelony sweetness, and the whole thing is slightly salty and a bit spicy. The drawdown is where it turns more woody with a very smooth sandalwood, a bit of that fruity sweetness and marine freshness. This is so unique and a compliment getter with fantastic performance. I'm definitely going to be reaching for the entire line more in the coming months, and this is one I've enjoyed quite a bit lately. Vetiver is one of those notes that I enjoy as part of a mix of notes, but I really don't have a lot of vetiver focus scents. And out of the ones I have, Tom Ford Grey Vetiver and this thing right here are some of my favorites. Now, I usually reach for Grey Vetiver, but every now and then I switch things up and reach for Artisan XX because it gives me strong Tom Ford Grey Vetiver vibes but with a twist. John Varvatos Artisan XX has a noticeable spicy kick in the opening, and I do feel that the vetiver it has is more green and a bit more raw, whereas Grey Vetiver is a lot smoother. Both are aromatic but in different ways. The drawdown is my favorite part of it, when its spiciness gets a lot softer and the whole thing gets a lot smoother. This is a very special kind of scent that I really gotta be in the mood for, and when I want a different kind of freshness with a focus on vetiver and woodiness. The Artisan line has some great freshness in it, often at great prices, and I do recommend to check them out. This one, however, Artisan XX, is not a blind buy kind of fragrance unless you enjoy scents like Grey Vetiver and want something that's a bit like it but with a bit more bite to it. Performance is about average. So there you go, these are some of the fragrances I've enjoyed a bit more than the rest lately. Now I would absolutely love to know if you tried any of these, your thoughts on them, and which fragrances in your collection you'd be reaching for a bit more than the rest. Like this video, thank you, I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.